Ember Witch. Book 1. The Lich. Volume 1. Black Tragedy. Chapter 3. Half-Blood. October 21st to December 21st, 458 BME. Fragment 25. The Yellow Dancer. Cress arrived at Sanaa, a tiny settlement 3 days' ride from Myopia. She was sent off before Fevra and Vera returned but was confident on returning within a week. Her contract was on a man named Accio. He was convicted of robbery and murder and was last seen staying at the Sanaa's Inn. Despite the usual way contracts would go, she was certain that Accio would still be hiding here. Neela's information on the job stated that he hadn't left the inn for weeks. The guards of Myopia didn't patrol here often, so Cress was sure he would be held up at the inn. She walked through the mud-covered streets, passing multiple people who were covered in dirt and grime. The smell of the town was that of cow shit. Cress ignored the stench and walked to the inn where her target would be hiding. She had changed her outfit before she stepped into the town to something more in line with a traveling dancer. Her crop-top shirt showing off her belly. A short multicolored skirt and a pair of netted stockings. She walked into the inn, catching the eyes of every person in the main entrance. A total of 6 men, all dirty and grimy from their work in the field, stared at her with lust-filled eyes. The innkeep looked up from the counter with confusion.
"Excuse me, miss, you must be lost. Myopia is just another 3 days north of here,"
the innkeep said, and Cress walked up to him.
"You are mistaken, sir. My name is Julia Knockow. I am a traveling dancer. I make my way around the east performing for a living. I noticed Sanaa on my map and decided to stop here in order to make some more gold for my trip over to Ghost Island. I was hoping you would allow me to set up my show here in your establishment,"
she said, and the innkeep looked her over, then shrugged.
"I guess, but we have no bards here, so I don't know what you will dance to,"
he replied, and Cress laughed.
"I don't need music to dance, silly,"
she said with a wink. The innkeep blushed under his fur, then smiled. Cress turned around, scanning the room to see if her target was visible. She was informed he was a young man with standard red, orange and white fur patterns. He usually would wear a gold necklace with a silver coin hanging from it and a platinum ring with an emerald encrusted in it. Not seeing her mark amongst the 6 Firen who began avoiding eye contact with her, she turned back to the innkeep.
"I've traveled a long distance and could use a room for the night. How much will it be?"
she asked, and the innkeep placed his hands on the table.
"A copper for the night seems fair enough, doesn't it?"
he asked, and Cress smiled. She reached into her shirt, pulling a coin from a pocket that had been sewn into the breast. She placed it down and winked at him.
"This is a gold piece. I don't have much change on hand,"
the innkeep said, looking over the shining gold coin.
"I don't require change. This is for your hospitality. I will go grab my bags and return from my room shortly,"
she said with a smile, and the innkeep grabbed the coin, looking at her with appreciation.
"Your room will be the 3rd door to the right,"
he said, pointing to the set of doors along the left wall. She smiled, then turned around to exit the building. She made her way back to her horse, which she had tied up a few buildings down, and grabbed her bag. She slung it over her shoulder, then stepped back to the inn, keeping a skip in her step. She walked back into the inn, then took to her rented room where she unpacked her bag. Her usual Cinder's attire, a bottle of poison, a smaller vial of antidote, several small wraps that held her food, and her water skin laid out on the bed. She uncorked the poison and tipped it onto her finger, then ran the sticky liquid across her mouth. It made her lip tingle, but she was used to the feeling after having done this exact thing on many of her jobs. The poison she had prepared would stay dormant in the system for 10 hours, after which it would cause the unfortunate victim to have uncontrollable fits of pain and anguish. Their throat would slowly close, causing them to suffocate while thrashing about. A terrible and horrifying way to die for sure, but nearly untraceable. The only antidote to cure this affliction was also a deadly poison if not prepared correctly. She had perfected the recipe and knew exactly how to deal with the side effects of it if it wasn't correct. She packed her bag up once more, placing the antidote on top. She placed the bag under the bed, then walked out into the main entrance. She strode around the room for a moment, then clapped her hands together.
Everyone, my name is Julia Knockout, the Yellow Dancer. I will be your entertainment for tonight,
she said, then pulled her color around herself. The 7 Firen looked up in awe as her aura flowed around her body. As her color extended outward, she felt an 8th Firen laying on a bed within the first room. She smiled as the figure stood up and opened the door to see what was going on. As she set eyes on her mark, she began her dance. She moved in elegant streaks across the inn's floor, using her limber body and color to begin painting a picture in the blurred movements of her speed. She rolled her hips, letting small sparks of magic fall down to the floor, creating a rhythmic clattering. As she continued to channel her magic into a drum beat from her hips and legs, she used her hands to create orbs of glowing yellow energy that she began to juggle. Her dancer's attire swaying with every movement she made. The crowd of Firen began smiling and cheering as she flipped her body backwards over one of the orbs. Her target, entranced by her show, took a seat close to his room, watching in awe at her acrobatic abilities. She stretched her color out into thin ribbon-like strands, then began twirling them around her. Each time she would extend her arms, the energy would snap against the floor, creating a second instrument in her musical dance. As she gyrated her hips along with the beat, 2 of the Firen tossed several coins at her feet. She smiled and winked at them, but continued to dance. She once again did a flip, letting her body fall to the ground as she did the splits, and again the Firen tossed more coins, cheering. Her target, however, wasn't one of them. She assumed that he was far too greedy to throw his money around, but she knew exactly how to close the deal. She extended her arms out to the ground, then pulled herself up, doing a handstand that let her dancer's skirt fall with gravity. The crowd of men cheered in pure lust as her shorts underneath showed off her ass. She walked on her hands towards her target, using her color to push her back to her feet as she twisted her body. She stood directly in front of him, then smiled as she mounted him. She leaned back and hung her head towards the ground. She pushed out her color and a yellow glow covered both of them. She leaned back up, then gyrated her hips against his pelvis. He groaned as the color enhanced his pleasure, then she leaned forward and kissed him. She pulled away quickly, then used her hands to flip herself backwards off of the chair. She balanced on the arm of the chair with one hand, then pressed off, using her color to augment the force of her leap. She flipped backwards in the air, then landed softly to the floor on her feet to a room of ecstatic cheering. She dropped her color, then bowed as the group of men clapped and cheered. She quickly gathered the meager amount of coins the men had thrown to her, then smiled.
You can catch my shows in Myopia this fall. I will be performing at the many taverns and music halls until next winter. Thank you so much,
Cress said excitedly, then bowed again. The men all cheered again and clapped their hands in appreciation, forgetting their minds off of their mundane lives. She stepped to the counter and placed a few coins down.
I'm parched after that. Can I get your best sake, please?
She asked, and the innkeep poured her a cup.
Of course. Those were some impressive moves. I would be delighted to have you back anytime,
he said, and Cress laughed.
I definitely plan on it. Dancing is my passion, and if it means I get to travel the East and meet new people, I couldn't ask for anything better,
she said, then took a drink. The sake wasn't the best. In fact, it was the worst tasting sake she had ever had the displeasure of swallowing. She held back her disgust and drank to keep her character intact. Out of all the fake personas she used, Julia Knockout was her favorite. She wasn't too far from her true self. Peppy, energetic and hopeful. Having the ability to use her combat training outside of battle was exhilarating. She had worked hard to keep her figure small, but strong. She trained for years to be able to perform movements and flips like she just did. Dara might be faster in sword combat, but she lacked the grace Cress had in acrobatics. She finished the sake, then set the empty cup on the counter only to feel someone approaching her. She turned around to see her mark awkwardly looking at her.
Hey, you are really good at dancing. Where did you learn to move like that?
Akio asked with a crack in his voice.
My mother was a dancer for the Morden of Halcyon. She began teaching me when I was 6 and I guess I got a hold of it quickly,
she answered with a giggle.
I was wondering if you might want to get a drink with me sometime. You already had one, so not right now. I mean, if you wanted another drink I would pay for it. I mean, if that's okay with you.
Akio said, stumbling over his words. Cress laughed, then placed her hand on his cheek.
You're cute when you're nervous. I would love another drink.
She lied, as she never wanted to taste the horse piss the innkeep called sake again. Akio laughed, then got the attention of the innkeep, tossing a few coins on the table.
2 more if you please,
he said, and the innkeep nodded, then poured them a cup full.
I didn't catch your name during your dance. I'm Akio,
he said, and Cress smiled.
It's Julia,
she replied, then took a drink, pushing back her reflex to spit the sake out. Akio smiled, then took a drink as well.
So you grew up in Halcyon? I've never been that far west. I grew up in Myopia and traveled here just a few weeks ago. What's it like over there?
He asked, and Cress placed her drink down, glad for the question. If she could keep him talking and asking questions, she wouldn't have to drink, saving herself the disgust in the process.
Oh, it's kinda like it is here. Just a bit larger but still quiet and homely. It doesn't compare to Myopia though. I envy anyone who lives there. It's such a beautiful city,
Cress replied, and Akio rubbed the back of his head.
It's not all that, to be honest. Sure, the upper district is nice, but the lower district is full of crime and filth. That's why I left actually. I made a good amount of money as a merchant and decided I needed a change. I sold my shop and moved out here. Sadly, there are no vacant houses for me to buy, so I have been living here until the supplies come in so I can build a new home for myself,
Akio said, and Cress read straight through the lie. She knew he was a thief. He stole a large amount of gold from a high merchant, then killed him to make sure no one would follow him. Unlucky for him, the merchant had friends who knew of Akio's whereabouts and lots of gold to pay for the cinder to hunt him down.
Wow, I'm in the presence of riches. Perhaps when your home is finished I could come over and give you a private dance. For a price, of course,
she replied with a wink. Akio laughed, then leaned against the counter.
Why not give me one tonight? I have plenty of gold and I bet you were hoping for a bit more than a couple copper coins tonight,
Akio asked, and Cress smiled.
I guess you have my arm tied, don't you? I make little in towns like this and could really use the extra money for food and board when I reached Ghost Island, she
replied in a naive tone.
Come on, I have been given total privacy with my living arrangements here,
he said, grabbing her hand and pulling her from the counter. She walked with him and noticed the stares of the Firen, who had been chatting amongst themselves since her dance finished. They reached his room and Akio chugged his sake, then sat down on the bed watching her. Cress began to dance again, this time without her color. She approached him slowly, running her hands down her stomach. He smiled and licked his lips. She smiled back, noticing that he just took in more of the poison. Then she began to undress. She dropped her shirt to the ground, then pushed him to the bed and straddled him. She bit at his ear and reached into his pants. He moaned and leaned his head to the side, letting her kiss him again. She smiled internally, as he had just taken his second dose of poison. She pulled his pants down, then shifted her shorts and began riding him. She was being careful not to reveal her true nature to him so she could enjoy the act before his death. As they grinded against each other, the sun set, and Cress knew only one of them would leave the room before the sun came up. Dara was laying on her stomach, snoring loudly. 10 empty bottles of sake scattered across her room. Fevre opened the door and stepped in quietly, trying not to wake her. He stepped around the bottles and found what he was looking for. He grabbed the bundle of herbs off of her table. Took a few buds, then snuck back out. He went to his room and grabbed a sheet of parchment, then walked out of the sanctuary heading for the greenhouse. Neela sat upon a large stone next to the greenhouse waiting for Fevra to return.
She's passed out. I doubt she will even notice I took any.
Fevra said as he showed the haven stem buds in his hand. Neela smiled and held out her hand.
You were paid enough to buy 6 pounds of it, yet here we are stealing it from Vera,
she said as Fevra handed her one of the buds. He shrugged, then attempted to tear the parchment in half.
She seems okay with sharing me, so what's hers is mine,
he said and laughed.
Why do you think she agreed to that?
Neela said curiously.
I spoke with Cress about it while you were out, but I want to know what you think made her decide that.
Neela continued after she took the parchment and began crushing the bud in her hand.
Honestly, I don't know. In my pack each Lyran could only take one partner. We uphold loyalty as a key part of our society, even to the point of exile if that loyalty is broken. Before I was exiled I hadn't found a partner. I was content with my place as a hunter. It was just my brother and I. Over the years I guess that Vera has grown attached to me. Maybe not love, but a bond that she doesn't want to sever. Perhaps she sees that she can't keep me to herself in the way a wife would with her husband due to her way of life. Maybe she is willing to put her heart into something she understands like sex and friendship instead of something she doesn't like love. Either way, I am the victim here,
he said with a smile as he struggled to crush the bud in his hand and keep the parchment in his lap from falling.
The victim? I wouldn't call it that at all. You have 2 women throwing themselves at you. Any man would see that as a gift from the gods.
Neela laughed, then pulled her collar around herself, sparking the cigarette in her mouth. Fevra rolled the paper with a struggle, then gestured for her help lighting it. She reached over and placed the small flame to the parchment, which began to smoke. She dropped her aura and took a drag, inhaling the smoke.
I love both of them. I couldn't choose between them in the moment it happened. If I chose Cress, Vera would have resented me. If I chose Vera, Cress would feel unworthy. Is it right for me to be with my clan siblings? When you brought me into the Cinder, you never explained how I should act around them. You never warned me about the connection I would have with them. The months we spent traveling east, when you found me I was lost and broken. That time we spent together formed our relationship. I never looked at you as a potential partner. I didn't hold any lust in my heart when we slept in the same tent. Do you hold jealousy in your heart for what happened?
Fevra asked, then took a drag from his cigarette.
Honestly, Fevra, I have. It's not like I haven't thought about you in that way. In fact, I flat out admitted I was jealous that you and Cress had sex. It wasn't jealousy against you. It was jealousy of Cress.
Neela replied with a tinge of embarrassment in her voice.
Cress? What do you mean?
Fevra asked, and Neela looked at him.
Our time together those first few months gave me a new brother. Someone who I never thought would be in my life. I have watched you all grow over the years. When Vera and Cress were brought into the Cinders I was 26 years old. It has been 15 years since then. I have grown older. I am losing my edge, and over the years I have watched 2 girls younger and stronger than I am take their lives into their own hands. I was jealous of Cress for something that I lost. My youth. To a Cinder, sex is just sex. When Cress was in her late teens she approached me with a question I was not prepared to answer. A request I had thought would have been obvious, but when it came I was so caught off guard that I froze. By now you understand who Cress is, what she is. There have been cases like hers throughout the years, but when she looked up to me with her beautiful eyes and asked if I would teach her what Vera or even the whores hadn't, I froze. She looked up to me as a mother for years. She placed her trust in me as if I was the only parent she had ever known. When she asked me to have sex I hated myself for it. I am jealous of each of you for not having that hatred I felt in that moment. I was responsible for this child, and when she reached maturity and wanted to have sex not out of training or responsibility but to feel what it's like to be with someone who loves you, I hated myself for raising that child to feel like sex was a weapon.
Neela explained, letting the high of the haven stem flow over her. Fevra sat silently, not knowing what to say. He looked at Neela and studied her sadness.
I have killed over 100 people since I was brought in. The clan father who found me died 6 years into my time there. He was a cruel man who relished the deaths he brought. Would it be wrong for me to follow in his footsteps and treat my cinders just as badly? I asked myself the day I laid him in the ground. I decided that day that I would reform the cinder into my own vision. We kill for profit, yes, but we would not kill each other. We would be a family no matter the background,
Neela said, then looked to Fevra, who leaned forward. He wrapped his arms around her. She flooded with emotions and let go of her past in that moment. They pulled away and looked into each other's eyes.
If we are a family, we share everything. Don't feel jealous over any of us. Don't hold hatred against yourself for doing what had to be done. If Cress and Vera were never trained by you, we would have been fighting a losing fight against the necromancers right now instead of celebrating. I love you, Neela. Just because I have spent more time with Vera doesn't make our relationship any less strong. You are my sister, and no matter what happens I will be by your side. Cress and Vera as well. If we are a family, there can be no secrets, no hatred and jealousy. You are wiser than any of us. You have more of your life ahead of you. Don't let the past hold you down. If you feel regret over your actions, they will hold you down forever. Always move forward.
Fevra said, and Neela looked into his eyes. She said, then looked down with tears in her eyes. Fevra grabbed her hand and laced his fingers with hers.
You can tell me anything, Neela. You don't have to hold on to the things that hurt you. I know that your history with Cress and Vera has kept you from opening up to them as much as you wish you could. Don't be afraid to say what you feel.
Fevra said, and she looked back at him.
I don't want to die without knowing. If Cress hadn't asked me to, I wouldn't have. Is it wrong for me to feel this way? Is it wrong that I want her more than anything and hate myself for it? You have no idea what torture it is seeing her with you and Vera. Why do I feel so jealous over something like this? Why do I feel as if she belongs to me? I even paid off her family's debt to the drug cartel her father got wrapped up in. Why do I want to fuck you but feel like I am betraying her? Fevra, is it right for me to want to kiss you when my heart bleeds for a girl I raised from a child? Am I broken for seeing Cress as a woman now that she is old enough? I raised her for 15 years. Training her to become a killer. Throwing her to the whores when she was old enough. What is wrong with me?
Neela cried and fell into Fevra's chest. He stroked her head, holding her tightly.
Life is a broken, fucked up thing. Our hearts crave things our minds say are wrong. Our minds seek things our hearts deny. Cress isn't your child, Cress is your clan sister. You were raised just as she was. We have no blood relation, no family ties. We are killers bred to keep the East a peaceful place. I know for a fact that Cress asked for your help because she knew she could trust you. Her and Vera were trained together and shared each other out of necessity. Cress sought you out not for sex but for trust and love, something she had been lacking for years. Don't feel bad for showing her that love.
Fevra said quietly in her ear as he rocked her back and forth. She clutched his shirt tightly, letting out sobs as her heart bled emotions she had bottled up for years.
If you love her, tell her, remember, sex is just sex. I hold no relationship with her greater than family. You will be welcomed with open arms. Even Vera wouldn't deny it. Neela, you are our sister, our family, and even though that word means something different to others, our family will be stronger when we are all together.
Fevra continued as Neela held him.
I have held on to this for so long. I have felt so terrible about my actions when they were exactly what was needed. Are you sure that I haven't done something wrong? Are you certain that she will see me the way she sees you and Vera?
Neela asked, and Fevra stroked her head.
We are family. She will run to you with open arms,
he said, and Neela loosened her grip. She looked up at him and leaned forward, kissing him. They stayed like that for several moments as the moon rose high into the sky.